Hello everybody, I'm Jerry Gatka. I'm your host for the Top of the Morning Show, shooting today on the U.S. Constellation. And we're in the captain's cabin, and I'm between the captain's office and the captain's bathroom. Anyway, there's lots of noise in the background, lots of tours going on, cannons going off, and the noise of the city. We're going to have a great show. Our guest today is Pat Cornish from the Maryland Commission for Women, and a very interesting background, which you'll see in just a moment. See you in a bit.
USS Constellation. There's a grand lady in Baltimore who has taken her rightful place as the Inner Harbor's crown jewel in the heart of the Chesapeake Bay. Imagine that, launched in 1854 and still afloat. Even more exciting, visitors can come aboard Constellation and explore to their heart's content. On board Constellation, history comes alive as visitors touch, feel, and experience what life was like for sailors during the Civil War. Just bring your imagination. The ship you see here, the sloop of war Constellation, was built at the Gosport Navy Yard in Portsmouth, Virginia, and launched in 1854. A newspaper account from the day of her launch reported that there were 8 pieces of the original frigate Constellation contained within her timbers. Sloop of war Constellation, that's here in Baltimore today and the Chesapeake Bay, has always been central to her story.
Throughout her century of service, Constellation served in and out of the Chesapeake Bay. It was kind of like coming home every time she returned to the Chesapeake Bay. She was created here at Gosport Navy Yard. And throughout her career, she came to Annapolis. She spent many years there. She sailed to Philadelphia. She sailed up and down the bay several times. And every time that she returned, it was like a homecoming for her.
Welcome everybody. Welcome to the U.S. Constellation, the Top of the Morning Show. I'm your host, Jerry Gatka, and we're filming today in the public as tours go on in the background, cannons are going off above, and people walking around, and maybe some clock ticking from something nearby in the furniture. So if you hear all these noises and you hear all the children running by, it's just the sounds of the city. I'm here today with our guest, Pat Cornish. And Pat, you're with the Maryland Women's Commission?
Yes, I am.
And tell us a little bit about that.
Well,
actually, you're the head of that, correct?
I am. I'm the chair.
Right.
Yes. The Maryland Commission for Women is made up of about 24 incredible women from all around the state, from different geographic areas with different backgrounds. They're quite an impressive group of women. Currently, we're sitting at about 21, so we have a couple of openings, and there's some areas in the state that we'd be willing to have people
Let's sell it.
apply.
Let's do the commercial.
You can certainly go on our website, www.marylandwomen.org, and fill out the application and send it in. It is an appointed position. The governor appoints the commissioners with approval from the Senate and the House, from the General Assembly. And then you get sworn in, and you
with recommendations, I'm sure, from current commissioners.
Exactly. Well, sometimes from current commissioners, but sometimes just from people who recommend those that have sent in their applications.
Any specific qualifications? You mentioned geographical.
We're looking to fill some geographic areas that are not covered right now. Western Maryland is one. The Lower Eastern Shore is another area that we're a little weak on. We're doing well in Prince George's and Montgomery County right now.
Which is where you're from,
Baltimore
correct?
City and Baltimore County. But there's some other areas where we have one representative, like Howard and Calvert and St. Mary's and places, jurisdictions like that. So we're trying to get a wide variety. Viewpoint. We would like that. Our commissioners are liaisons to the local commissions in the state because they look to us for providing them with a lot of information, and we want to be able to cover every jurisdiction that we can so that we can get the word out.
And what is the mission of the commission?
The mission is to advise the governor and the General Assembly and government in the state of Maryland on issues that are of utmost importance to women, and we also act on those. We do things legislatively, through education, through some of our programs.
I have to ask, what issue is dear to your heart?
What issue is dear to my heart? Well, pay equity is my big issue.
Okay.
I've been working on that for a very long time. And I will say that Maryland is doing pretty well. We're at 81 cents on the dollar, where nationally the average is 77 cents. But we still have a problem here. And a few years ago,
81 is still not equal, that's for sure.
a few years ago, we worked to have an equal pay commission established in the state of Maryland by law, and it was established. And we were very happy that it was, and they did their study and came back and said, yes,
Sounds good, but not
yes,
good enough.
Houston, there is a problem, and it was sent over to DLLR. At the time, Tom Perez was the chair there,
And for those of our audience who don't know what that is the Department
of Labor, Licensing, and Regulations.
Okay.
And
A State Department.
Right, and so we still need to follow up on what's happening with that initiative there, and see what we can do to get equal pay here in Maryland. But it is one of our issues. We also work with a wonderful organization called the MLAW, which is the Maryland Legislative Agenda for Women, and annually they hold a conference.
So you put forward legislation, you lobby for legislation?
Yes, we do both. MLAW actually puts out laws that are going to be considered that have something to do with women and girls in the state that they feel are of value every year, and other organizations throughout the state come together in order to help see these laws pass or test.
So you
that
work with
includes-
other women's groups as well?
Exactly, and the Maryland Women's Legislative Group, all the legislators, the women legislators, also support the MLAW agenda.
So there's,
So we come together.
I was going to say, like, there's an old boys club.
This is the
an
old
girls club.
No.
But I didn't want to say that.
way. I don't think old would be the right thing. Women may not like to be
An
called old.
experienced girls club.
Yes, there you go. There you go. Because we find that we get.
It's not often I'm politically correct.
We find that we get a lot more accomplished when we work in numbers. And so we come together and we support each other in these initiatives that we feel are really worthwhile.
Do you sponsor various events around town? I mean, surely you have
We do.
fundraising or something of the nature.
We have
In other words, when's the next party I can be invited to?
We have a couple of wonderful signature events throughout the
Okay.
year. One of them is coming up in March, on March 20th, and that's our Maryland Women's Hall of Fame, which is quite extraordinary. We actually partner with the Maryland Women Legislators and the Maryland Women's Heritage Center.
Which
and-
is not far from where we're sitting at the moment.
Exactly, and we put this event on in Annapolis, and then there's a dinner reception at the government house afterwards with the governor and his wife, and it's a really lovely affair. But we honor 5 to 6 women who again are nominated
Okay.
for their extraordinary contributions to the state of Maryland, and it's just amazing how many unsung heroines we have out there who have done amazing things. So it's just a privilege to honor these. I kind of get goosebumps just thinking about it. Their stories are always fabulous, and it's a wonderful, wonderful evening, and it's nice to be able to honor these women. And then as a result, in the Maryland Women's Heritage Center, there's a wonderful display which features all of these women and their stories.
And as we're talking about the Women's Heritage Center, we'll have that address running across the bottom, so anybody who wants to go visit the Women's Heritage Center will be able to do so.
That would be wonderful. And then the other event that we have,
Okay.
that's a signature event, is our Women of Tomorrow. And we go in the opposite direction, and we honor the future leaders, the young women in high school.
Where do you find these?
Well, we're lucky that we have some wonderful teachers and guidance counselors and Girl Scout leaders and church leaders and leaders in the community.
So they nominate them.
Who nominate these young women.
Who picks them?
There is a panel of outside judges that are
Okay.
chosen from, again, a variety of venues and backgrounds, so that we cover that nicely, and they do the processing of the applications and the interviewing and the selection. And those young women are honored at an event that takes place in June every year. Again, we usually try to do it in an hour.
Sounds like this is highly organized, and we'll get into that a little bit more as soon as we come back from this break. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Jerry Getka, your host for the Top of the Morning Show, and this segment is on our guest, Pat Cornish, from the Maryland Women's Commission. Now, Pat, you are the chair.
Yes.
How did you get there? I mean, what qualifies you for this position? I mean, you've talked about getting other people to get involved with the commission. Let's talk about you now.
I guess I've been involved in public service for most of my life. I've served as the national president of Business of Professional Women USA, which was
Lots of travel?
lots of travel all around the country, lots of speaking engagements, and a very, very wonderful experience. And after that, I served as the chair of their foundation and retooled and regoverned their foundation.
Now, is that because you're a good fundraiser or because of your background in business? And I know you have a background in business.
Yes, it was because of my background in business, really, more than anything else. And from there, I served on the Montgomery County Commissioner for Women for 8 years in various and sundry positions, running their Maryland legislative agenda for women, and as chair for 2 years, and or president for 2 years, and vice president, and all that stuff, getting up, up to be a president.
So it's primarily your background in business and your experience around the state that led towards your
pretty much, and
your
also
primary interest
my interest in politics.
Equal pay.
Politics, because I started my career on Capitol Hill. So
tell us more about
I was
that.
very interested in politics, and I was before I left the Hill, I was a legislative assistant for a congressman, and then I kind of gravitated home and had children and took on some other part-time positions and went back to school.
What are some of the impressions you took from your time on Capitol Hill?
On Capitol Hill?
I'd be interested in that.
Well, those were a while back, but they were absolutely wonderful, because back in the day, we did a little bit of everything. It's kind of like other industries, even in the accounting industry today. Everybody's now specialized. You're either an auditor or you're a tax person, and and that's the way it is on the Hill now. You either you do one thing. We were able to do
like much fun.
We were able to do everything, which was a great experience.
Certainly broadening.
It was very broadening, and I met my future husband there, and it was, the whole experience on the Hill was wonderful. Those were during the days, I'm going to date myself here, but during the days of, I was very young when I interned on the Hill, and it was when Kennedy was shot, actually. I was interning on the Hill, and I was thinking about that the other day when we celebrated the anniversary of his shooting. And
I don't know if I should ask you this question or not, but I would guess in those days there were more negotiations and accommodations and people give and take.
So.
What changed?
I'd like to know what changed too, because there was a lot of reaching across the aisle.
Right, I mean, people talk to each other.
Absolutely, they talk to each other. A lot of negotiations going on all the time.
It doesn't seem that way today.
It's not that way today at all.
All right, so you had all of those experiences on the Hill. What next? What happened after that?
What next? Well, after that, I ended up
You had to go make a living, right?
Well, yeah, exactly. When I left the Hill to have my first child, because back in the day you did that kind of thing, I went on home and took up some other things, ended up going back to college later in life and changing my career path totally and getting into the accounting industry.
Okay.
It's
So
funny how
should we
life
talk
takes
about
us
your
that
business
way.
or your family first?
Well, I'm probably my family. That makes me the happiest.
That works for me.
I have 3 grown married children now, 9 grandchildren.
Wow.
And they're
You're going to have a big Christmas.
They're all doing really well, so I'm very happy about that. And
you have lots of places to go for Thanksgiving dinner.
Absolutely. My son has 7, and he's in Kalispell, Montana right now, so I think I'm going to stay here. It's warmer here than it is there right now. It's 6 degrees.
Are they all coming here?
No.
Oh, why not?
I'll see them later for Christmas, maybe. But not for Thanksgiving.
All right, let's talk about your business life. You went into accounting.
I went into accounting, and I worked with some really wonderful accounting firms in the state. One of them was actually very large here in Baltimore, the last company that I worked for. And then it went through a merger and got bought out, and at the same time my husband became very ill. So I decided I'd go ahead and hang out my ship.
From mother and businesswoman, then you went to caretaker.
Entrepreneur. Yeah, caretaker and entrepreneur at the same time. So
that's a heavy load.
I was the head of the emerging business department for the accounting firm, and I thought, well, I'm always helping other people be successful in business. Maybe I could do this. I needed to do that. I needed to be able to stay home and care for my husband. So he has since passed away. And then I found a little place in St. Michael's, and I bought myself a cute little house, and 2.5 years later moved there full time. So now I'm a resident of Talbot County after living in Montgomery County my
So
whole
you
life.
could become the representative from Southern Maryland.
From the Eastern Shore. Yeah.
Eastern Shore, okay. Close enough.
Yeah, because we're down by Easton, so we're over
Okay.
the Bay Bridge down that
When
way.
I think of St. Michael's, actually,
Maybe you think it's St. Mary's.
we were talking about, I'm sorry, you said St. Michael's? or
St. Michael's, yeah.
St. Michael's.
And I've fallen in love with that town. There's always something going on. We just
I know there's
finished
some
that
beautiful
big
restaurants
Oyster
there.
Fest.
I know there's some beautiful restaurants there. I've been to a few of
Wonderful
those.
restaurants.
Yes.
It's hard to stay thin in St. Michael's. They have wonderful restaurants.
Well, you've been through so much in your life. What's next? Where do you go from here?
What's next? Well, I enjoy the work I do, and in addition to my accounting, now I'm a part-time executive director of an international nonprofit. So
Okay.
I run 2 international conferences for them a year and a DC speaker series where we
If you
have.
need any extra speakers, I'm always available.
Okay, I'll remember that. So it seems like I'm just kind of busy all the time, but I really love it, and I'm getting more and more involved in the community. I help out with the Chesapeake Bay Maritime Museum with their annual
Okay.
boating party, and then this year I was the treasurer for the Concours d'Elegance, which features the old cars that come in from all around
I'm
the
not
country.
familiar with that.
And it's an amazing event.
There are so many events available in the Baltimore, Washington area that
Yes.
you have no idea unless you're.
And you don't have to go far to really enjoy the fruits of the state of Maryland.
Well, you're going to give us more information on that, but we'll be right back after this break.
Okay.
2013. I am Pat Cornish, Chair of the Maryland Commission for Women, formerly of Montgomery County, now relocated to Talbot County. The Commission for Women works with Maryland state government to advance solutions and to expand social, political, and economic equity. This year, our primary focus is healthcare reform implementation.
I am excited to have all of you here this evening. Thank you for coming. At this time, I will invite Secretary Ted Dollars to the podium to give the welcome on behalf of the Department of Human Resources and present the Maryland Women's History Month proclamation. Secretary Ted Dollars.
We hold the Maryland Women's Hall of Fame induction ceremony each March as a way of celebrating Women's History Month. We do it to recognize the important role that women have played and the key contributions they have made in helping others in Maryland and across the nation. Thank you to all the honorees for their dedication and accomplishment. All of us, whether we're women, men, boys, girls, are better off because of what you did. So I'd like to read a round of applause for tonight's honorees. In honor of this occasion, I am also going to present a proclamation from Governor Martin O'Malley to Pat Cornish, but rather than read the whole thing from start to finish, I'm going to read the one part that I think is particularly apropos for the honorees tonight. So you know how these things go. There's whereas, and they go through all these things. So whereas it is approving to celebrate Maryland women and girls with a distinguished record of historic accomplishments renowned throughout the United States and the world. I know all of us agree that not only the 6 honorees here tonight are perfect additions to the Maryland Women's Hall of Fame, but also would be perfect additions to the United States Women's Hall of Fame. And I don't know if there is one for a World Women's Hall of Fame, but I think they're probably good candidates. But your impact has reached far beyond the state of Maryland, and we thank you again for your contributions, and I congratulate you. I hope you enjoy it very special.
Thank you. We have just a very few people to thank because we're a little bit late for dinner at the governor's mansion. We don't want to keep the governor and his wife waiting here. We wanted to thank Delegate Catherine Pugh and all of the women legislators of Maryland who have sponsored this event tonight. We thank you very much. The Maryland Department of Human Resources, Ted Dowds, thank you for all your support. And the Friends of the Maryland Commission for Women, and also our wonderful staff. I don't know if they're all still here, but without them, this would not happen as well. Bonnie Ariano, will you stand, Special Assistant to Secretary Dallas. Crystal Young, our Program Administrator. Ellie Elgin, the Director Gallery. And Andrea Judkin, who is our intern. They make the wheels go. Also, I just want to end by saying congratulations to each and every one of you special women. We are so proud to induct you into the Maryland Women's Hall of Fame. We are all by your accomplishments, and we are very proud of every one of you. And to the rest of you, thank you for joining us. And for those of you who are going to be at the reception, you can thank and recognize these women yourselves. Good evening.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Jerry Getke, your host for the Top of the Morning Show, here with our guest today, Pat Cornish. And Pat, you mentioned an international consortium that you work with and put on these events for. What do they do?
They educate and train members in finance all around the country. So when we have these international conferences, for instance, there's training sessions and workshops, all based on topics of interest to these international folks. And by that I mean
graduate level accountants?
They're members of parliament, they're ministers of finance from around the world. Sometimes they work for public roads. They come from, we had 46 different countries in our conference in May, which was held in Miami. We have to have interpreters because we have people who speak.
Okay, so they're public servants who have great responsibilities in the financial fields, but aren't necessarily accountants.
Exactly. Some are, some aren't. So you have a little bit of both.
Just like our lawmakers, some are lawyers and some are not.
Exactly.
Okay.
And some of them, they come to get educated and they really, really enjoy this. It's the only consortium that pulls together.
And you'll hear a noise in the background from the noise of the city and the tours going on in the background.
Yeah,
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Great, doesn't it?
Please
the sun
continue.
is shining. It may be really cold today, but the sun is shining.
It's beautiful outside. Cold with you?
It's cold in here. You see us all bundled up.
So you get to hobnob with all kinds of people.
Yes, it's really interesting.
I would bet.
Very interesting.
And quite a bit of travel still?
Not too bad. Not as much as I used to do. So.
But you enjoy travel?
But I like traveling.
Really?
I do. Yeah.
Tell me some of the interesting places you've been.
I've probably been to some places that you'd never want to go because some of the conferences I did for business and professional women were in these little out-of-the-way places. But it was always kind of fun. I'd end up sharing the stage with some really interesting people. In Fresno, California, I kept thinking I recognized the mayor, but I couldn't figure out who it was, and it turned out that it was Bubba from The Heat of the Night, who is now the mayor of Fresno. And then in Vermont, I shared the stage with Patrick Kennedy, and we had a wonderful little discussion outside about the Kennedy family, because at the time there were several Kennedys running in the state of Maryland for various
Yes, we have our own Kennedys here.
And he said to me, we were talking about his relatives, and he said, we had a gathering recently of the Kennedys, and it was really interesting. We decided we could save a lot of money if we just made up one button that said, "Vote for a Kennedy near you." And I don't think I'll ever forget that.
That's really a great lead-in. Is politics in your future?
Oh, I don't think so.
Why not?
It's always possible. It's always possible.
I'd vote for you.
Oh, well, thank you. What would I run for? Probably the House of Delegates, I guess. But, yeah.
So how do you go about doing that? You just...
have your name put forward by one of the political parties, or get enough signatures.
Right.
And pay a fee. And depending on the office, that's how much the fee is.
They'd have to really know you in either the Democratic Central Committee or the Republican Central Committee.
I was asked one time to put my name on the list to run for, I think, governor. It only cost $10,000.
Oh, who's
$10,000, and
money for that?
the
so
person who was
expensive.
asking me was the Constitution Party, and I said, no, I don't do that. I don't do that.
Tea Party.
But I mean, for $10,000, you could always say, I ran for governor.
Oh,
Put it on
yeah,
your resume.
right.
You didn't have to spend any money or actually get any
Yeah,
votes.
you and
just-
Robin Ficker, he ran for everything.
Yeah, well, Maryland's famous for people that run for everything. We've had a few of those.
We've had a
people.
couple of them, haven't we?
Yes, we
Yeah,
have.
that's true.
It's not going to be me. It's not going to be. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back.
The caption and ring the bell daily. And we recommend the free self-guided audio tour, which comes in 2 flavors. So welcome aboard USS Constellation and enjoy your visit to the historic sites of the Chesapeake Bay Gateways Network.
Welcome back, everybody. We're here for our final segment. I'm the host, Jerry Getka, talking to our guest, Pat Cornish. We've talked about your background, all the things that you've been involved in, your interest in politics.
Right.
And let's bring it back to the Women's Commission.
Yeah.
And politics.
Politics.
And getting women involved in politics.
Women, we try to encourage women to get involved in politics as much as we possibly can. We need more women all over in the state of Maryland, but especially in the House of Delegates and the Senate. We're on the low side in female representation there.
So I'm going to put you on the spot. How long before our first female president?
Well, I think we're getting there, and I hope we're going to see it in my lifetime.
I think we will.
I think
I
so
think
too.
so.
I think it's an exciting prospect, and I think it's right around the corner.
And on that note, we're going to say goodbye to our audience. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Pat, for
Thank
being our
you,
guest
Jerry.
today.
Appreciate you having me.
It's a good time.
It's been great. Thank you.
Very much. Goodbye, everybody. Bye-bye.